Dave. Tonight, we are going to talk about why is it that people love to hate you so much, or they hate to love you so much? Because as of late, it seems like you, me too, but especially you, seem to be catching a lot of hate and discontent from people around you. What's going on? What does anthroponautics have to say about that?
I think we have a principle about that.
We do. So what is it that about what you're doing, about what we're doing here in the studio, in your personal life, like what is it that you think is driving people to, to love that they hate you so much or hate that they love you so much? Like, why are you simultaneously both so attractive and repulsive to people?
I think the more you step out, the more you step forward, that we have a principle that shows that human beings are self-corrective animals. And once you start to grow or behave differently than those around you, they're going to start enacting certain behaviors in order to keep you in line.
Let's explore that a little bit more. Like, we humans are social creatures, right? If you remove a baby from their mother, from their parents earlier on, and if you don't provide them with contact, touch, loving care, and that sort of thing, and if all you do is just take care of the base physical needs, provide shelter, warmth, food, that sort of thing, that child will still perish, right? Because we humans need social interaction. We need to be close to each other. We need that contact. Otherwise, we won't survive. And we know that because of evolutionary psychology and Dunbar layers that we are going to prioritize that contact with the people who are inside our 150 layer, right? Inside the 150 layer, that is the quote, us, right? That those people are safe. They are even what we might call good, right? And then anything outside of the 150, that is them, that is dangerous, that is, quote, bad. Even though morally speaking, ethically speaking, if we got to know those people, they wouldn't actually be them. They wouldn't be dangerous. They wouldn't be bad. It's just that cognitively, evolutionarily speaking, anything beyond the known 150 is a threat. But inside of that 150, people are still going to be a threat to you in some way.
I'm glad we're getting into this one because we dove into the Dunbar layers in our last discussion as you drawing out those tiers. And the assumption in the conversation is that everyone in that tier supports you. Right. And that's not true, because the more that you grow, the more that you're going to have people come in and try to correct your behavior. So your growth, we're talking about this in a positive way. Like if you're reaching for something that increases your influence.
Hey, good word.
Thank you.
No bleeping
you
there.
You almost went for it.
Well, you gave me the nod.
You're going to do something that is going to increase your ability to influence, be influential. Less invisible, more visible. You're going to get a lot of haters. There's going to be a lot of hate and discontent.
From
inside your own Dunbar layers.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine taking that nucleus, which is you, and you're the one who's going to change. You're the one who's making the decision. You're the one with the willingness to change.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the first things I've told my students, and I'm so glad we're going to explore. I mean, one of the first things I've showed my students was this video with Kieran Ray talking about herd behavior. And he doesn't directly address Dunbar layers, but we've studied it and we're bringing into this tier, is that your psychology and your makeup, it cannot survive a herd working against you. So you need to be surrounded in a tribe that is fitting and supporting the same behaviors that you want to exhibit and you want to drive for.
Right.
And when you stay put and you stay comfortable and you don't set out on that path over the horizon with other like-minded people, or people who are going to push you, you're going to get a lot of pushback. You're going to get a lot of undercutting. You're going to get a lot of passive aggressiveness, and it's to be expected.
Yep.
And
it's actually part of the design. Like, it's the way that the machine is designed is to, through pattern recognition, we know that things that help our ability to survive and replicate, that is, quote, good, right? And we seek after those things. Well, if you are inside of my tribe, if you're in my 150 dunbar layers, then you starting to behave differently is going to be, quote, now unknown and dangerous. And you're not following the pattern that I have evolved to recognize as good. And so I'm going to try to correct you back to what is known, what is safe, what is, quote, good.
I've had it even looked at as your personal growth is heresy. Like, the thing that you're doing to grow and be better is almost immoral. Like, how dare you try to be whatever it may be smarter? Why would you read that?
Yeah.
To be fitter. I've heard all of these tropes.
Sure.
Like, why do you need to do this? Like, why do you need to go to the gym? But why? You're not a professional athlete. Like, what bullshit, right? But you'll hear this. If you make a decision and you're going to step out and you're going to attempt to do something that's different from outside your tribe, because we see this in the young men and women that we mentor too. We want to push everyone to be, first and foremost, get fit, get smart, like start reading, start learning,
increase your value, get trained,
start making sovereign decisions for yourself. But your own sovereignty is dangerous to your circle, and you're going to have to break your dunbar layers in order to grow.
Yeah.
So the hate and discontent that you're going to have from people closest to you is going to be expected.
Yeah.
And this is even from your intimates. Like, the pushback that I've even gotten from my own family in some instance, very close friends that just, you got to put them on a disposal orbit.
Or maybe not completely push them outside of your tribe, but just have them further away. And, the math allows for you to do that. Decrease the social distance will decrease their influence. We're starting to get a little bit ahead of ourselves. So why don't we bring in Kieran Ray's video now? We'll have the commentary as it goes. The first part we're going to skip over because it talks about what we've already discussed, that humans need contact, physical touch, in order to build that immunity, in order to survive, right? He then leads into this idea of acceptance, of having a tribe, and we'll pick it up from there, okay?
They're driven by community. I just want to be somewhere where I belong. I just want to be accepted for who I am. So as we grow as humans, we start to create our own herds. So right now, you need to look at who are my social herd and who are my business herd. Most entrepreneurs are not surrounded by other entrepreneurs.
So one thing that I want to comment on here at this part is the importance of having multiple different herds, or essentially creating a tribe that matches your needs, where it's not like it was in our ancestral past, where the tribe that you were born into is the tribe that you're going to get, the tribe that you're going to die in. Because, as we've discussed, the anthropic domain is different now because of globalization, mass communication, ease of travel, those kinds of things. You can literally pick who is going to be in your tribe. And if someone isn't matching, as we'll discuss here in the video, then there are actions that you can and should take in order to limit the amount of influence that particular person or group of people has in your life.
Friday night, okay, and all your friends are at the pub. You're the only entrepreneur. It's 7:45 and you're banging away and you're putting things into place. They'll see that as socially unacceptable behavior. Because you're a part of our social herd, you should be out grazing with us.
Isn't that exactly what we were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you try to start doing something different than what your tribe considers normal or safe or good, they're going to try to correct you. They're going to say, hey, you're starting to look different than us. Come back here to the field and keep grazing again. Take that extra scoop of rice and be fat, dumb, and happy.
Right.
You've experienced this in the past.
Absolutely. I probably attribute this to a lot of my neurodivergence, which I don't know if that comes out or not here. I am wired different.
Yes.
And you know this. You accept me for that. That's why you're at my tight centric circles and the
Sure.
dunbar layers. But the corrections, how do I know when I'm starting to build a community where that belonging is truly helping me push to be a better version of myself? Because Kieran Ray says it in this video, and I almost wanted to interject in it. He's like, I just want to be where I belong. I just want to be like, he's giving himself a self hug when he's talking about
We
it too.
as humans, as mammals, are driven by acceptance. They're driven by community. I just want to be somewhere where I belong. I just want to be accepted for who I am.
Okay, that part right there, right? Which I think we all can feel that, right?
Sure.
We all can like, hey, I want to be somewhere where I'm accepted. I just want to be.
Yeah.
But what if your self sucks? And this is where I mean, you could just scroll through social media and you're going to find whatever algorithm is putting the information in your face, the scrolling like, oh, I'm good enough. Like, I want to burn every poster that says that.
Right.
Because what if that poster's lying to you?
Yeah.
Like, actually, no, you're not enough. Like, what is required of you is growth, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to be painful, and it's going to require you to do things different.
Yeah. What have you said in previous conversations that the most important thing you can do in a human relationship is to maintain or increase your value?
I truly believe that. And that one kind of blows some people away.
Right. No. The most important thing is honesty and communication.
Right. Being more vulnerable, but vulnerability to the things you're already vulnerable at because you're not good at them. So what value are you bringing to your tribe, your family, your friends, your partners, your peers? I believe everybody needs to be better. And I enjoy being in groups that bully me to be a better human being.
Right.
So like the corrective behaviors, as he's discussing, where it's, why aren't you doing that? Or, I mean, we're going through some intensive fitness training right now.
Yeah.
Where it's, I mean, we're getting it now. Everyone's so curious about what I'm eating.
Yeah.
Like people peering over my desk.
Or not eating.
Or not, right? What are you doing? What's on your diet? Like, why are you so curious?
Yeah.
Now, because you know I'm doing the thing and you're not doing the thing, but you could do the thing. And how many people have we kind of lovingly bullied into coming with us? Like,
People
we're
who,
going.
who
Let's go.
could very easily get on the stage with us and do the beauty pageant. They could do it
Right.
with us.
Right. They very well could. And maybe it's just not their time. And I mean, really, truly going through this, we've also found people who have gotten tighter into our tribe, and the love and support has been phenomenal. And then the hate and discontent from others has been almost surprising. And I've experienced, I mean, whatever undertaking that you're going to go on. Let's just use the fitness journey piece.
Sure.
Because it's, in some ways, I find it to be one of the most polarizing things anyone can do. And we've captured it on the whiteboard,
Yeah.
like the money, muscles, frame, and game. Why is it that the muscles piece, and this is for men and women, and I've seen this in CrossFit, I've seen this in personal training, where you almost have to sit the person down and go, look, this is not only going to be physically hard, it's going to be mentally challenging, and just forget about your social circle. Like, that will change.
Yeah.
But you don't want it
has
to.
to.
Like, oh my God, but my acceptance circle
Mm-hmm.
is not going to be okay with this. But that's, I mean, anything that you take on that you're going to get a lot of pushback, just expect it. It's coming.
Right.
That I want to make a sovereign decision as an independent person saying that, no, I'm not enough. I need to improve. I need to get better. I want to go for a degree. Not that a degree necessarily makes you any smarter, but an immersion of sorts into something different. I want to learn about said subject. I want to be a subject matter expert in something. I want to go somewhere and travel and learn something new. I want to get more fit. I want to compete. I want to take on a new skill, whatever it may be, right? Rest 100% assured your circle is going to change. And a lot of people's psychology cannot handle the loss of those connections.
Right.
And I suppose really at the heart of what it is we're discussing today is the hate and discontent that you are going to feel from people that you have built bonds with. And because the anthropic domain has changed, I mean, that pinging, that pain that we feel in breaking those ties and connections, I think at a very deep human level is to keep us safe. And that safe is the survival mechanism so that we can survive and replicate.
Right.
When you start feeling that ping, like, it's okay. You're going to be all right. The training is that you're going to have to be okay with breaking those tethers.
Yeah.
That it is okay now to be a social interloper. And that's my word. I've been asked. It's cute because girls will be like, well, who were you in high school when you were, what group were you in?
Right.
And I love that analogy because we need to watch Mean Girls again.
Yeah.
Because sociologists study that film because you go in there with your plate and you're like, God, where am I going to sit? Right. And it's like the jocks, the JV jocks, the music geeks, the
pink ladies.
Right. You have nothing was more tribal than you remember growing up in high school. Like, where do I sit and where in some weird social hierarchy am I?
Yep.
And that goes away, but does it? Because do we have the book up? Popular?
No, we don't have that one here, but we've talked about it before. Mitch Prinstein's Popular, that who you are in middle school and high school carries on and replicated into your adult life. And so
what if we take that model and just completely break it? Like, I want everyone to take that little computer chip that's in your head that thinks that who you were at one point in your life is who you're always going to be and just shatter the shit out of it.
Right.
Right. And I think most people stay there because it's these formative years. And I don't think most people beyond that challenges themselves much harder outside of formative school years. I mean, maybe they go to college, but then outside of that, it's get a job, do the thing, have a family, stay in one place.
Right.
And maybe I'm not speaking to the adventurers who are out there who are constantly growing and learning. Like, we love you. You're our people. But then anyone who's hearing that is probably nodding their head going, oh yeah, I've had to change social tribes.
Absolutely.
So many times because of the growth I've taken on. I mean, think about showing up in different brackets. Let's go to the money piece. Like, I want to be more successful. Like, the 5 people in your inner circle, they're gonna
be uncomfortable with that.
Then they're gonna have to.
Oh, you're taking too much risk. You're putting your family on unstable foundation.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna say those things. They're gonna be the crabs at the bottom of the barrel that are trying to pull you back down.
So crab fishermen in Maryland, these guys just throwing the crabs in the barrel, and someone goes by, and goes, hey, they're gonna escape because you don't have a lid on. I was like, no, they're self-correcting animals. They'll pull themselves back into the.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the same.
Yeah.
Unless you break that psychology and it no longer becomes a part of who you are. I would like to believe, and this is the belief, but I hope I live a life that I prove that I am not that way. Because I've had it done to me so many times that, and I suppose you've seen it, where someone is having a discussion about something and I give them a response that they're not expecting.
Yeah.
Because it's one that's like, they're almost.
Yep. It's the record scratch.
Yeah. They're looking almost for someone else to tell them no. Right. And then I'm like, oh, you should do that.
And they go,
right?
What?
I'd be like, no, you should take that risk. Or, that sounds amazing. You really should do that competition.
And they're like, wait,
what?
You weren't supposed to say that.
No. Like, if it's thought out, someone has I think I've really been thinking about this. I've been ruminating about it and it's on my mind and I really want to try this thing. And I'll be like, man, you should do that.
Yeah. Well, everybody else in their tribes are trying to correct them and keep them from improving themselves because that's a threat. And we'll talk more about why it is a threat and why the non-standard response draws a record scratch type of reaction.
Right. But I love being part of groups that, again, it's my own cognation and it's my own sovereign decision-making that leads me to like, I'm going to walk this particular path. And there's an endpoint. There's a mission statement. There's a goal I'm trying to kill at the end of this timeline and chain and plan. And that's the decision that I or a group have made. And this is the path where we're going to be on. And then watch how people behave around you.
Yeah. What we're trying to point out and what Kieran Ray is saying is that this is normal. This is part of how the machine is designed.
Right.
That don't get upset over the fact that people are trying to correct you. Just understand that that's coming and be trained enough that you can circumnavigate it.
So this episode really is about, it's about seeing people I really love and care about that have the potential to do better and be better, but then want to sit on the I'm enough. I want to burn that poster.
Yeah.
Actually, the answer is you're not enough, but I just want to be myself. But yourself sucks.
Well, I want you to love me for who I am. Okay, I can love you as you are, but I am also going to love you enough to not leave you that way. Because...
You mean you'd bully me into being a better human being?
You're bullying me.
I do bully you into being a better human being. And this is a belief that your inner Dunbar layer should be people who are also socially interloping, like their own concentric circles are full of people who are pushing them to win in whatever endeavor it is that they're trying to take on, like really getting the most out of this human experience.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to do things. There are different ways to live. There's different ways to think. There's different ways to thrive.
Yeah.
There are different ways to learn. There are different job opportunities to take on. There are different successful ways in order to solve problems.
But the evolved pattern recognition machine views different as dangerous. That any sort of non-standard approach to life, learning, love, whatever, is dangerous. And if they haven't walked that path, and if they don't have a mentor that is guiding them along the way, they're going to view that as, because it's not safe, because it's dangerous, because it's other, it's also therefore bad. And if it's bad,
well, then
they feel justified in putting that moral justification on it.
Well, this is the shoulds.
Yeah.
The shoulds and the shouldn'ts, and then it even gets as far as you can't. And people you love and care about telling you can't.
Yeah. The how dare you.
Oh, then it becomes indignation.
Yes.
Hate.
Mm-hmm.
And discontent.
There we go. And that's where it comes from. Right? Kieran's got a little bit more to say about this. Let's let him have his say, and then we'll keep going from
the
there.
rest of the herd will naturally come in and start doing what's called corrections. Your social set will correct your behaviors because they see that behavior as threatening, because you're acting different to the rest of the herd. Your psychology will not withstand a strong social herd that is working against you. It won't. You will adapt to your environment.
I don't know that we can emphasize that point right there enough.
Right. The idea that you can still stay in it and withstand it.
Right.
But we're not designed that way. You truly need to be part of a different social circle in order to learn and absorb and be supported in a new endeavor.
Because your machine will be so overpowered by all of the corrective behavior, corrective input, that it will shut down or it will adjust back to what it was before. Or your option is to find a different tribe. And that's what he gets into next.
I've had to consciously choose who I spend time with. I think oftentimes people put way too much value on our bloodlines than we do on our mental health. Does that mean you divorced your family? No.
But we would say, if your family sucks, then you need to push them out. If your family is keeping you from winning, if your family is of the type that is saying, oh, we will love you forever, just as you are, don't have to change anything, our love is unconditional, which all sounds great and wonderful, but it's not real. It's not true, right? Because if your family truly did love you unconditionally, they would allow you to change yourself for the better. They would allow you to improve.
The words I don't agree with you, but I will support you is still an undercut. And we hear that. I think it's important to explain that you and I work with a lot of young men and women.
Yeah.
That are coming from all different walks of life, all kinds of, all over the country.
Yeah.
All different socioeconomic backgrounds, but there's so many similarities also in just the human experience.
Sure.
Like that is what we are mentoring to. So it doesn't matter whether, we got kids who grew up in the heartland. We got kids who came from cities. We got kids who barely made it through high school. We got kids who probably should have gone to college on scholarships, but decided to do something different.
Yeah.
But every one of them could probably attest to some sort of dynamic within this being corrected into behaving a certain way. And then they meet us.
Yeah.
And our response to them is typically the non-standard response.
The record scratch.
Right. Or we hit them with a piece of knowledge that just kind of resets the machine. They go off and think about things a bit, or we got to draw things up on a whiteboard for them. And first thing I'll typically get if one of my guys or gals has an idea, and it typically always starts with the sheepish, like, hey, there's this thing I want to talk to you about.
Right.
And they always kind of hang out, loiter in the background. They want to talk to us.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, got this thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. And they'll be like, okay, well, what is it? Insert goal, set, or thing that you were thinking about, because everything that you were thinking about, and the reason that it's so hard for you to bring it up is, one, is your Dunbar layers and supporting it. It's new, and graciously, I believe we've built enough camaraderie and trust in our.
Yeah, we've demonstrated and displayed enough value to have the influence to be able to say the non-standard response and not have them go completely off the rails.
And I typically, and you've seen this is my approach, is given the whiteboard marker. I go, okay, make it make sense to me. And judgmentally, I guess I'll just be like, all right, send it. Like, what do you got? And if it makes sense, granted, it doesn't fit the 3Ds. It's not dumb, different, and dangerous. I mean, different I'm good for, and dangerous is risk. But if it's dumb, like, does it meet the needs of reality? Is it realistic? Is it specific? What's the SMART goal? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific.
Yeah.
What are you willing to dedicate to actually making this happen? Okay, then let's put an X on the board, kill the target first, and start working our way backwards.
Yeah.
And be like, what is it going to take to actually do this thing? And if someone can get through that process of going, this is what it's going to take to do said thing, then, well, yeah, I fully support you doing the thing that's going to break everything else possibly in your life to get this. But the one thing that we're hitting on today is that your entire social circle is going to be lit on fire because of it.
Right.
Strangely, that's the one that I think people kind of experience the most fear about. That this is not only, whatever goal that you're putting up here is not only going to be life-changing, it's going to be socially life-changing. And you don't know where you're going to arrive.
Well, it's because of that evolution, that evolved fear of and need for safety, right? They fear that if they change their social circle, their environment, they are now going to be put at risk, that they're no longer going to be accepted, that they will no longer be able to survive and replicate and meet their, genetically predetermined needs, right? But what we are trying to explain is that if you stay safe, if you stay small, if you stay content, then you are going to put your survival and replicated needs at risk. That you are going to limit your ability to not only survive, but thrive, and to have a greater ability to impact the world around you, both biologically and informationally, right? So we work with these people to try to help them see that the best thing that they can do for themselves is to burn some of the bridges, to divorce their family. And by divorce, we're just literally talking, just push them a little bit further out in your Dunbar layers. You don't have to call your mom every evening. Maybe just limit it to every other, or
every week. I just had this side-by-side comparison. This is an old meme, and it's Courage Wolf. And
do I need to find it and pull it up?
Yes.
Okay. Which one is this?
Like, Courage Wolf would have all the memes that are like really motivational, but still really hardcore.
Yeah.
And then Insanity Wolf is, well, just insane, just takes it to an insane place, right? You're like, it doesn't mean that you have to, it doesn't mean that you have to divorce. You just push them a little further out in your Dunbar layers. I'm like, burn the bridges. Like,
what you're saying
murder
is that
every tie that you have to your blood
I'm the
family.
Courage Wolf. You're the Insanity Wolf. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Well, you're still so sweet. You're still my sweet friend Colin. I'm the one who comes in and gives the knife hand and really tells people to, but I might hurt my family. I don't care.
I can knife hand just as well as you can. I don't do it as often as you do.
I just go straight for the
for the jugular. I get it.
If it's just not, if it doesn't inspire shock and awe in the immediate, then Courage Wolf.
But maybe you're right. If you've got a family member or a friend or somebody that is in your Dunbar layers that really truly is pulling you down and keeping you from being successful, yeah, burn that bridge. Knife hand them all the way out into your 500, 1500, 5000 layer. Don't allow them to have any more influence over you than is truly necessary.
But who tells people that? Who gives people that truth? That sit down and talk to me about the thing that you're trying to do, or what's hindering you.
Why would anybody else talk about that? Because what everybody else says, what the quote leadership development and motivational speakers and all say is that your network is your net worth, right? The people who are closest to you, those are the ones that are going to help you win, which is not wrong, but they're saying keep the people who are closest to you. And we're saying sometimes the people who are closest to you are the greatest threat to your success.
Yes. And this is the identification of your identify out into your Dunbar layers. Like, who is helping me win on the path that I am choosing to walk? And who is, to varying degrees, stifling my growth? And it doesn't mean that you've got to completely cut ties, but it certainly means that I cannot be under the influence of whatever it is that you have to tell me or however it is that you're going to guide me. Like, I need to do my own thing in order to get the result. Because ultimately, looking yourself in the mirror, like, can we reverse the poster to make it you're not enough? You're not enough. In a loving way, I believe that you can be and you should be.
It's come here. Let me give you a hug.
I love you, man.
I love you, but you're not enough.
You're a shit show.
And we have said those words to some of these kids that we work with.
Right.
And in some instances, they've taken it and been like, yeah, I'm working on it. And others will get super defensive and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How can you say that to me?
Because I love you and I want you to win. And but it's the two part. Like, I can, man, have a lot of love and care for people that I am teaching and want to take care of, but already covered it. Can't teach willingness. And the only thing that's going to get it done is the emphasis in the thing that you do, not what you say. It's the Latin term, facta non verba, like deeds, not words.
Yep.
I'd rather not hear a damn thing from someone and then just watch the progress and then see the determination. And now determination, sans a smart approach, is just it's just witnessing self-destruction.
All thrust, no vector.
Yeah, and I love that term, right? Because that's a full ass explosion. Right? That's right. I'm like, man, there was a lot of fire behind that one, but it went nowhere fast, right? And that's a smoking hole in the ground. That doesn't have
boy. That escalated quickly.
All thrust, no vector. There needs to be some ingenuity and some intelligent design behind somebody's push. But this is where good mentorship comes from. This is where being around those who've walked the path, how hard is it to pick up a book? And how many kids won't, like, oh my God, there's a great resource for this. I'm going to figure it out on my own. Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Or if we make a recommendation, push back on, but this other people are going to say this, that, and the other. And then they came to us for advice.
Right. They
asked us to help them. And then they start to correct us, because we give them the non-standard record scratch response. And they're like, wait, no, that can't be right. Well, look at us. Have we walked the path? Have we improved ourselves? Have we dealt with the hate and discontent that comes with self-improvement? And can we help you navigate, the nautical piece of anthroponautics?
Right. It's the navigation piece. And anyone who's done anything worth a damn has experienced a lot of failures in that also. And I don't think that's talked about enough. There's not hey, come sit down and talk to me about, like, everyone wants to know how you win, how you won, but that's just sifting through the things that worked. And where's the emphasis on the struggle? Because you're going to lose also in order to find your way. And you're going to lose those social connections. There's a lot of folks who are just not good for you. And your Dunbar layers need to be thinned.
Yeah. So ultimately what this all comes down to is, within anthroponautics is, how do we capture this idea? How do we encapsulate it into something that is useful?
So the math piece, the math principle on this, which has been taken from and inspired by which law?
Gauss's law for magnetism.
Okay. Is now, if I can, because you're the engineer and I'm the operator.
Yep.
My knuckles healed because they drag. Is that from a human terrain perspective, the more influential you become, the more repulsive.
Yeah.
And you were like a magnet, which has both a polarity of positive and negative. And we drew it up on the board in the 4 quadrant.
Yep.
The opposite of invisible is either incompetent or ineffective. And then you have your influential.
Yeah.
But the more influential, man, we really love to hate those people.
Yeah. They are controversial. They are unignorable. Every single person who knows them will form an opinion about them.
So you're going to get a tribe of supporters that are going to be incredible friends. And within that friend tier, you're also going to have people working against you. And then you're also just going to have a complete layer of people who just work against you.
Yeah.
Know it's coming. Know that is part of the path of growth. And it is, not to get all toxically motivational about it, let's just put that aside. It fits into the anthroponic mat that this is a human terrain principle.
Yeah. It's a law even. It's Gauss's law for magnetism, but applied to the anthropic domain, right? So we're going to do this on the iPad, show how this all works. We have to first understand the concept of a gradient, right? So a gradient, the Nabla, there's a great video on this we'll link in the show notes that talks about why stuff happens. And essentially, to answer that question, if something happens in any domain, in the land, maritime, air, space, cyber, anthropic domain, it happens because there is a gradient. And gradients are throughout. They're really everywhere in all sorts of physics, all sorts of science, chemistry, and everything like that. But they are here most specifically part of the Maxwell's equations for the anthropic domain, right? We're not going to go through all of them, but we're going to talk about Maxwell's equation number 2, which is Gauss's law for magnetism. So the gradient with a dot product of the attraction field changing over time is equal to 0. Okay? And just to compare this, for the magnetic field, a time-varying magnetic field is equal to 0, which means that there are no magnetic monopoles. All field lines, and if we draw a little magnet, right, we've got a north and a south, all field lines will come back around and terminate in the magnet. Even if you cut that magnet in half, you're still going to have a north and a south. All those field lines are going to come back around and terminate at the South Pole. All magnets are both attractive and repulsive simultaneously all the time. It's just how you manipulate the direction of the magnet allows you to change the way that it behaves in that particular field. Well, it's no different for people. That if I were to take this out, take out the magnet and just draw a person in here, right? Every person is simultaneously attractive and repulsive, as we've been discussing this whole time, that in a time-varying attraction field, if you become more attractive over time, that also means you are going to become more repulsive to somebody in some way.
It becomes the competitive, contested, and congested environment of the anthropic domain.
Right.
If we are all competing, and let's just be real, like the anthropic domain is combative. This is combat, and combat is violent.
Yeah.
And we really don't want to attribute to just living your everyday life and having to think like Sun Tzu. I mean, you sent me that video into this discussion about this. It's like, hey, I need you to understand this concept.
Yeah.
Like, please take this and understand this concept that is so important to the anthropic domain. Any domain is that gradients. And I hadn't been introduced to the idea, but it certainly made enough sense that even the operator level, at the immediate applicability level, that it looked like, I paused it. I was like, this looks like Minesweeper.
Yeah.
Or you go in and little click the thing, remember that old school game?
Yeah.
All right. But every cube on this grid represented a value.
Yeah.
Right. To me, it looked like a topo map.
Yeah.
And it looked like me looking at, actually, it's right here in our, this is amazing. I think you put these on the table because they just look cool.
But that's actually what it is. It's a field.
Yeah. It's a topographic.
Yeah. That's why I got them.
It's topography.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It's terrain.
But I know how to read this, right, on a map, and I can go, the solid lines are at every 1,000 feet or 500 feet,
Mhm.
and this is completely flat. But if you assign it a value, I can read this.
Yeah.
So if I look at a gradient, and I've got these cubes over whatever span, I can visually see it so that a 1 is a 1, a 2 is a, say it goes up to 10. 10 is highest peak, right? 9's right below it. And obviously I could take a look at it. And if there was all these assigned numbers to this, then I can look at this and go, this is a peak, this is a valley, this is a mountain, this is a plateau. And if I were to drop a ball or a drop of water into this field, it would move.
Yep.
because it's not flat. It becomes a dynamic environment.
Yeah. And such is the anthropic domain, is that every person is assigned a value by the people around them. You know, the typical way of doing it right now is to assign people a number 1 through 10, right? You know, she's a dime, right? That's what people like to say. Or, you know, everybody thinks that
it's universal.
Everybody thinks she's a...
You can hate it out there, but it's the bros. This is how bros talk.
Well, it's...
You can hate bros. And even chicks.
They do it too.
It.
Because it's part of the evolved pattern recognition machine. Like, it's what we do.
Well, and it's a discussion. And what is that? It's a gradient. Because then it lets you know that one right there, that one's
exactly.
an 8. That one's a 9. That one's a 10. That one, holy shit, he's like an 11. She's an 11. There's just no such, or maybe there is a super high peak. Regardless, it sets up, well, what's the comparison? Why is there a need for comparison? Because we're in a congested, contested, and competitive environment, and it creates a gradient.
Right.
And then things can move within a gradient. And as this physicist explains, if everything was at a 1, that's death.
Yeah.
As you've even explained to me, is that, God, there's a word that describes this, is that static.
Homeostasis?
Yes, which is death. Like, that can't exist anywhere in...
Yeah. If there is no gradient, then there is no life. There is no motion. There is nothing.
So everything is based in gradients. That means everything is...
Yeah.
Everything is in motion.
Yeah. And so if something happens inside the anthropic domain, it's because there is a gradient.
Which that gradient changes the assignment of value, which human beings put on other human beings.
Yes.
Hence, if your value is increasing more so than everyone else around you, you're now a threat to your group.
Yeah.
And the group will try to bring you down. When we call it down, bringing you down a peg or...
Yeah, they're trying to keep the gradient as small as possible because steep gradients are dangerous, right? Because they cause massive change. But if you continue to increase your value, you're going to increase the gradient. You're going to increase how steep it is, and therefore will be met with hate and discontent.
And even if you show up in a different tribe, it's also competitive there.
Yeah. And that's part of the discussion too, is like, you know, some of the people that we work with say, oh, I just need to change my environment. I need to go do something else. I need to find a different job or whatever. And I'm like, well, people are still people, whether it's here or there, it's going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. If it's a human terrain problem you're trying to escape, you're never getting out of this matrix.
Right. Until, we evolve past the machine that we are now, but then we're going to be met with different kinds of gradients and different kinds of problems. And we'll, that's 100,000 years from now, but
there'll be a different contest there.
But it will still exist.
Yes.
Because if there is no gradient, then there's nothing, period. It's damnation.
This is where a lot of people like to be, though. Where they're comfortable and there is no movement and no one comes in and bullies them to be better. Or if you do, and hence we're playing with this term in a joking way, but you do come in and try to challenge someone to be better. It does look like an attack on someone. Yeah. It looks like a personal attack. Like, I see potential in you and you should judgment.
Yep. Right there.
Dirty word.
Sorry.
Could judgment word.
Yeah. The could, shoulds, woulds are all,
man, seeing potential in people who don't have willingness is painful. And that's my own orientation that does that. I wish I gave a shit less, but I care.
You do care. If you didn't care, we wouldn't be here having these conversations.
So maybe this is to inspire. It's to inspire people to, God, I really could, judgment word, be something different.
Well, so let's hope that somebody who is listening to this, hope is also a 4-letter word that we can't use here. We hope that somebody is going to take this information and recognize that their gradient is so small right now. They're met with so little hate and discontent that their life is so safe right now that it's almost static. It's almost death. It's as if they are invisible, that they didn't even exist. And then they change as a result. They recognize the gradient between us and them, or if nothing else, the gradient between where they are now and where they could be tomorrow or next week or next year, whatever. And then they start to develop the willingness, which is a choice, and then they start to do something with it.
And then it's going to take time. And 600 days,
yeah,
I think is the number we've kind of arrived on. I don't know if we've broken that down any further.
We will at some point for sure talk about how long it takes to change your orientation, but it's not immediate. However, willingness is. Willingness can just be like that.
Just decide.
Do something with it. Allow the gradient to do its work. And be okay with the fact that as soon as you become willing, you will start to be met with hate and discontent. The crabs will start to try pulling you back down. The herd will try to correct your behavior because that's safe.
God, I sent you a passage the other day, and it was the author of the Book of Five Rings.
Yeah.
Miyamoto Musashi.
Yeah.
The approach to combat and everyday life should be the same.
Right. Say that again.
The approach to combat and everyday life should be the same.
So it's not the combat in everyday life. Well, actually, that might read the same way. Combat and everyday life are the same. That's essentially what he's saying. Because it is. The anthropic domain is congested, contested, competitive. It's fraught with conflict.
The approach to combat and everyday life should be the same.
Yeah.
Because life and combat are the same. In any competitive sport, I mean, you're looking at rivalries. I mean, you have teams that play the same sport. I mean, why don't they kumbaya? Because they're trying to win.
Because that's the whole point of this. Of all of this is to win.
But there's I don't want to win. And what is the response to that has been fine. Just
fine.
Stay
small.
Then be invisible.
Then be invisible. But we are going to go win. And you don't get to come with us.
No, because that puts you in the invisible where the world acts upon you.
Yeah.
And there are some spirits, like you got the spirit that I want to be competitive. Like I want to have a say over what transpires in my life. Then you're going to have to fight because you're entering a contested, congested, and competitive environment. You're going to be a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
The more success that you attain in whatever it is that you've decided to pursue. Now, there are some pursuits that have higher ROIs than other. Probably pull in a completely different episode for that one. And we'll probably get into that one in terms of like what is universally attractive and what
Right.
isn't.
Because value is contextual, but there are some universals.
Yes. I'm looking forward to breaking that one down.
Sure.
In this instance, we're talking about breaking your Dunbar layers because your tribe is not going to support you in the endeavor in which you've decided to take on.
Yeah. And you need to be okay with that. And that's the point of this conversation of what we're discussing here is for you to recognize that that's normal. That as you continue to increase in your influence, as you strive to increase in value in training, you will be met with hate and discontent. That will come. And you just need to be okay with that and prepared for it, know how to navigate around it or use it to your advantage. Do not expect that it's possible for you to be purely loved and never have anybody hate you. And also, anybody who feels like everybody hates them, that's not true either. Everybody is simultaneously attractive and repulsive in some way, in some amount. The lower your value, obviously, the less hate and discontent you're going to be met with, but also the less true, genuine desire that people are going to have for you in their lives. Well, go the other direction. Start to increase your value, increase your training, become influential, become controversial as a result. You become unignorable. Everybody is going to have an opinion for you or against you. And you just need to accept that fact and be prepared for it. That is Gauss's law for magnetism in the anthropic domain. And it's a law, meaning you don't get to ignore this one. You can choose to use it to your advantage, but you can't make it go away. I think that's a good place to leave this one. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you on the next one. has been a production of Anthroponautics, owned and operated by Slade Enterprises. Don't follow the gradient and steal our stuff.